Hey, check 1 2 1 2 1 2. That should be good there. Hey, check 1 2 1 2. Let's just make sure. How's everyone doing? I put on some sound here to make sure that the sound is good on this end. Do you all see the chat, by the way? I think we got some good noise. Do you all see the chat, by the way? If you weren't here last class, then we've got a chat box below the video that you can use. Say hello, welcome, and also that if you have questions, you can throw it up during the class and I'll check back. All right, cool. We got sound. We got video. Super cool. Give me one moment. I know the video went away, just give me a second. So we're gonna just take away this one. All right. So this should do it. Let's see. My friend with the name T. Shakalakart. Can you tell me your name again, so I'm not repeating that? And Yoga Eki, is it? What's your first name? Is it Eki? Please let me know in the chat. So if I talk to you directly, that I know who I'm talking to. All right, let's just get this going over here. So welcome to another class. Let's get connected to, I watched your videos. Thank you, by the way, for posting to the Facebook group. I'm very excited to share a little bit more with the jump backs and jump forwards, which I think a lot of you posted that with some questions, and I want to get a little deeper into that. So feel free, if you haven't posted your jump backs or jump forwards and you want some support on that, feel free to let me know if once you post the video, if you'd like me to give you some tips. Also, you don't need to receive feedback. If you just want to share it because you're excited about it, or you just want to share it for the sake of sharing, you don't need to say anything other than like, here's my post. So no pressure on any of that. But if you do want tips, then ask for them so that I know that's what you're looking for. Okay, so moving forward today, we need some sort of towel or whatnot for sliding, because we will do another sliding transition for jump back to chaturanga that I think will be helpful. Now, the easiest or the best exercise for learning how to jump forward is learning the pose called Ardha Uttanasana, halfway lift, and understanding that this posture, the halfway lift posture, is what you're landing in essentially when you jump from down dog to Uttanasana. You're really landing in Ardha Uttanasana, which is half lift, more or less. Now, if we refine that a bit towards understanding the biomechanics of the body in handstand, then we can change the posture slightly from Ardha Uttanasana, somewhere between half lift and Uttanasana, forward fold, is the jump forward. So that little float that a lot of you are like, well, I'm never going to get the float. First of all, if you never get the float, it's cool. It's like something that most people don't ever get in a lifetime, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But what does matter is learning the techniques of your body that moves in that direction. So understanding what muscles can get stronger, understanding where the potential flexibility increase can happen. And by doing so, if you get stronger, more flexible, and ultimately more aware of your body, and you still can't do it, then you've got 3 magnificent side effects that come out of the study of. So for me, when I'm studying a pose, I'm not studying, let's say this, when my ego is put aside and I am living, I would say, in alignment with my heart, then when I'm approaching these poses, I'm not approaching it for the pose sake, but rather to understand myself, to learn about myself, to grow within myself. And I hope that that's the same for you. I think it's the same for all of us if we step into that for ourselves. And it's just a very quick transition to go the opposite way, where we get obsessed with achievement of the posture and thinking that that's the success, where the real success is, first of all, practicing, and second of all, getting the information into our system where we learn about ourselves, the self-inquiry, the self-reflection, the self-awareness that we gain. That is the success, rather than the achievement of some pose. So in that being said, we use the pose to create the journey. We use the pose, it's like, it's the journey, not the destination, is the spiritual teaching, right? Well, without a destination, there is no journey. So we want to make sure that we're on a path. So we use that destination in order for us to understand what we are doing, so that we have a journey to go on together. Okay, so it's not about the ego, but rather about developing an understanding of ourselves. So, okay, so let's do... started off on all fours, hands and knees, okay? And by the way, if there's anything that I do that you're like, can you switch the camera angle, you can put that in the chat as well, and that way I know that you need a different angle and I can show. Right now we've got 2 camera angles. Eventually we might be adding a third if necessary. All right. Come to all fours, hands and knees. Together, let's inhale, arch the back, look up. Exhale, round the back, gaze towards the navel, and start gripping your fingers into the ground. Inhale, arch the back, look up. As you dig your fingers into the ground, stretch the belly. Exhale, round, gaze inward. Again, inhale, arch and look up. Exhale, round. With this camera angle, you can see the position of my arms right now, slightly turned out. Inhale, arch. The index finger is more or less pointing straight forward, and the fingers are digging into the ground. As you exhale, round. All right, inhale, arch, look up. Come to downward facing Adho Mukha Svanasana. And you can wag your tail a little side to side. Today we're going to get into some side body strengthening. And if you're strengthening one side of the body, usually, not always, but usually stretching the opposite. So side body strengthening and lengthening. So just kind of wag your tail a little side to side. Say hello to the side body muscles. All right. Walk the feet to the front of the yoga mat. Separate your feet outer hip width apart. And for many of you, I noticed in your Uttanasanas, the hips were quite back behind the heels. And what this does is it actually tightens the hamstrings. It teaches them to get shorter, as well as shortens the calf muscle as well. So you're going to move forward instead. And by the way, your videos really help me to, when you post them, it helps me to see what I should teach, okay? So please do. Leaning forward. Then once you lean forward, you can lift your buttock bones up towards the sky with, again, so lean into your big toes and then
bend your knees, but then press. Let's do this action together. Ready? Press the heels isometrically apart. As you press the heels isometrically apart, then lift the buttock bones up towards the sky. As you lift your buttock bones up towards the sky, think about the back of your hamstrings moving away from one another. It's really a rotation of the backs of the legs apart from each other that you're going to feel your outer hips engage. And what that's important for is it's going to help tip your pelvis. So don't worry if your legs are completely straight, but you're moving towards straight. That's the activation of your muscles, towards straight. Straightening is not the goal, but moving in the direction of straight is the activation we're going for. Take an inhale. Hi, Tito. Exhale and bow forward. A little toe tapper. Inhale, halfway lift. And again, exhale, bow forward. One more time, inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Rise to the sun, Urdhva Hastasana. Reach the hands to the sky. Exhale, hands to the heart, Samastitihi. Let's take a moment. Standing on our 2 feet, take a breath in and a breath out. And one thing I noticed for many of you I think will be beneficial is if you have your feet hip width apart instead of together. Now I know it presents some challenges for some of you to have the feet hip width apart, and that's okay. The challenge is going to be welcome, but it'll align your bones, your thigh bones, and your hip sockets a little bit more. Hey, buddy. Come on. Come. Say hello to everybody. This is Tito, if you haven't met Tito yet. He's a little restless today. Hi, bud. Let's put you on a little... Let me get him a bed, and maybe he'll relax. Y'all with children and animals can understand, huh? There you go. Right there. Good boy. Stay. All right. Standing on your 2 feet, hip width apart, reach the arms to the sun, Urdhva Hastasana. Inhale. And as you exhale, bow, Uttanasana, forward fold. Halfway lift. Now this is the posture that I'm talking about, Ardha Uttanasana, that could help us with our jump forward. So the main actions I'd like you to do today are press the backs of your hamstrings away from one another. That's a rotation of the legs. So spin the backs of your legs apart like you're trying to separate the mat underneath your heels, and you'll feel your outer hip muscles activating. Keeping your outer hips active, then start to bow forward. Okay, inhale, halfway lift again. Press the backs of the hamstrings apart. Now, as you exhale, slowly step your left foot back, keeping your body weight forward to make the transition very slow and easeful. Take a breath in here and exhale it out. Gather strength in the legs by pulling your 2 feet toward each other. Your hips will lift up as a result. Now, press your front heel down into the mat until your upper body starts to round. And if your upper body doesn't round, then intentionally pull your front ribs in and round your back so your fingers come up off the ground. Okay, then release down. Let's do that again. Inhale, press down, round the back, get your fingertips light, lifted. Exhale, soften. One more time. Inhale, press down, lift, round, get light. Exhale, fingertips to the ground, out in front. Take an inhale, halfway lift right into Ardha Uttanasana. Press the heels outward. Again, the backs of the hamstrings open away from one another. And then exhale, bow, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen. Right foot back as you exhale. Slow and steady, lean forward to make the transition smooth. The big toe touches first, then the ball mound of the foot next. Okay, now, again, let's take a breath and soften. We'll settle in. We'll move more in a moment. And then see if you can draw your legs toward each other to start or initiate the strength of your legs. So you pull your feet toward one another. As you do so, your hips should lift as a result. That's my intention for asking you to do so, so you get a lighter, more lifted. Now, with the breath, push down through the heel on the inhale. Round your back, get light or lifted off of your fingers. Exhale, fingertips to the ground, touch. Again, push your left heel down, round the upper back, pull your front ribs in. Exhale. One more time. Push down, inhale, round the back, get light. Exhale. Fingers out in front, inhale, slowly step your right foot forward. Place the big toe, ball mound, then heel down and bow. Inhale, halfway lift again. Step your left foot back, but this time big toe touches the ground, and then pivot the back foot outward so the ball mound touches and the heel, but when they do so, you're in warrior 2 feet, okay? Walk your hands to the inside of your right foot. Now that you're on the inside of your right foot, you can adjust your stance as needed. If you need a longer one, you're welcome to. One thing about transitions is that if you go to your deepest pose, often that's too deep for most of us to transition and move. So sometimes with transitions, you want to stay out of your end range and save that for more when you're holding static postures. But we're going to do the exact same thing that we've been doing in that lunge to prepare our hips to rise up. So first, pull your feet toward each other and lift the hips so that instead of sinking down, your back inner thigh stays quite lifted. Okay, now as you pull your feet toward each other and your back inner thigh stays lifted, we're going to do the same action in lunge. Press from your right buttocks down into your heel and round your back like you're going to come up, and your fingers should start to get light. And you can take your hands up, take a full breath in. Exhale, fingertips back down. It's a little tuck of the tailbone. Push down through the heel, little tuck of the tail. Inhale, lift, round. Fingertips down. One more time. Press through the front heel, get light in your fingers. Exhale. Now walk the hands back to the front. Pivot the back heel up. Inhale, step forward. Half lift, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale and bow. Inhale, halfway lift, prepare. Right foot steps back slowly. Big toe touches, but then pivot. Back heel comes down. Walk your hands to the inside of your left foot. We first get prepared with our breath. And we start to activate our inner thighs so we can find some connection. Pull your feet toward each other and lift your hips up. Get light, get solid in the legs. Now, with that solidity, with that strength, we apply some additional movement and strength upon it. And that is, now that you see from the backside, you can probably get another view, that the left buttocks here is going to come slightly under the pose as I push down. And as a result, it should get really easeful in the hands, okay? And then release. Let's do it with the breath. Inhale, push down, scoop the sit bone a little bit. Exhale, slow. And all this is doing is activating the hip muscles, the buttock muscles. Inhale. And very slowly letting those muscles release. But that slow control release is what's important. Pivot the back heel up. Inhale, step forward, halfway lift. Just big toe, ball mound, heel, and bow. Let's get our hip flexors awakened. These are muscles that most people don't necessarily strengthen, especially in this position. So like we did last time, lift your left heel up and then try to get your left thigh as close to your chest as possible. I'm going to move my arms so you can see, okay? And once you have that, see if you can actually flex your left foot without moving your leg back. For many of you, that's going to require a knee bend. That's totally cool. Don't worry about the leg being straight. If the leg is bent, but you're still doing the exercise, then great, okay? And then release big toe, ball mound, heel. Next side, lift your right heel up. And then see if you can keep your right thigh close to your chest. And then with your right thigh close to your chest, flex your right foot. Keeping your right thigh close to your chest is going to be the activation of your hip flexors against the tightness of your hamstrings. Big toe, ball mound, heel. All right, shall we do it with the breath? Shift to your right a little bit. Inhale, left leg lifts up and squeezes to your chest. Maybe you tap the back of your wrist. Exhale, big toe, ball mound, heel. Switch sides. Inhale, lean to your left. Right toes lift, flex, maybe toe tap. And then exhale, big toe, ball mound, heel. Inhale, left side. Toe tap. Exhale, big toe, ball mound here, heel. Inhale, right lifts up. Toe tap. Exhale, big toe, ball mound, heel. I lost track which side we started on. Inhale. Touch. Exhale, big toe, ball mound, heel. Right side. And if you know which side we ended up on or started on, then you can finish on that side appropriately. Okay, inhale, halfway lift and pause. Now, with this halfway lift, we want to try to find a way to activate the muscles as if we're able to bring both legs like you're toe tapping the backs of the wrists, which is obviously hard because both feet are on the ground. But first, start by pressing the backs of your hamstrings apart, and you should feel when you do that, yes, your outer hips awaken, but also your pelvis kind of tips down a little towards the ground. Okay, with that tipping, that's another way of activating your hip flexors. Now here's the controlled kind of in-between posture that I want to share with you. I sort of went over it the other day. It's called handstand prep position. That's what I call it. You take your hands to the ground and you grip your fingers into the ground as if you're preparing to do a handstand. Those of you that were in the December immersion have a real good, strong understanding of that. If you weren't in the December immersion, just dig your fingers into the ground like you're trying to claw dirt, and we'll refine it as we go along. Okay, with that gripping of the ground, I'm going to move my hands back so the camera sees. Now lift your heels up. With your heels up, still move the back of your hamstrings and buttocks apart. So press the backs of your heels away from one another and press the backs of the buttocks apart. Okay, as if your heels were still on the ground, you're pushing them apart, but really all the way up at the hamstrings, you're moving apart. This is called handstand prep position. The one thing that I usually add is moving the ears in line with the shoulders so that your head's not too far forward, which if your head is forward, it brings the hips down as a result. If your head is tucked a little bit, it'll allow you to lift your hips up a little higher. I'm not going to explain that too deeply right now, but just kind of a little rule of thumb for you. Halfway lift on the inhale. Step back to plank pose. Place the knees down. Another thing I saw for a chaturanga that I think will be really helpful is, I don't have any blocks up here, unfortunately, but what you can do, I've got a book I think I can use real quick. I apologize, I should have had a block up. Oh, a tissue box, we'll use that. So anything that is a 90-degree angle. This is very helpful for learning how to shift your weight while on your hands. We've done a lot of shifting of weight while on our feet. When you're on your hands, it's very complicated to understand how to shift your weight because it already feels like there's a lot of weight in your hands whenever you place your hands on the ground because we're not used to it. So what we'll tend to do is keep our weight in our legs and take the weight out of our hands, which is fine at first, but over time you want to develop the strength to put more weight in your hands, but you can't do that without actually putting weight into your hands. So my suggestion is you have something like this box here. I'm going to show you the other angle. You see right now the box is right up against my wrist, but it's off on a diagonal because my body weight is actually back in my knees right now, in my hips. So in order to bring my body weight forward, I have to lean forward so that my forearm becomes perpendicular to the ground. Now you're going to see the box is going to actually be vertical and fully on the ground while still back behind me. Now don't cheat yourself by putting the block vertical back here and being like, well, the block is vertical, or the box or whatever you got, book or whatever. You want to make sure that it's right up against the back of your wrist. Now, this might be too intense for some of you, and you do have to lean back a little at first. But know that, to be vertical or to put your weight in your hands means that it's this direction. And if you grip your fingers into the ground, the flexors of the wrist over time will develop strength for your planks, for your chaturangas, for your hop forwards, for your handstands, and so on, okay? and arm balances especially. Okay, so that's a little indication that I really like, and understand how to lean your body weight forward. Now, come off of your wrist for a second because I'm sure they're exhausted. And let's I'll give you a moment to roll the wrists around so that we don't overdo it. And I'm going to show you chaturanga with this behind my forearm so you can see how the body weight moves forward. Now, what will tend to happen, I notice this around the world in both males and females alike, and anything else in between, that the idea here is that when you do chaturanga, most of us are very smart with our body. We don't want to put a lot of weight in weak muscles, so we do something like this. I'm exaggerating a lot, okay? But the idea is we would put our weight backwards as we bent our elbows, okay? I'll show that without an exaggeration so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, and all it does is overload the elbow joint. We don't necessarily feel it muscularly as much because our weight is in our feet, but we don't get stronger as a result. So I would encourage you very slowly over the course of time to shift your weight inch by inch over the course of time, slowly forward. So eventually, maybe in the next year or so, if you start working on it now, that you'll actually be able to do plank pose with your forearms vertical, and you'll be able to do chaturanga with your forearms vertical the whole time. Okay, what this will prepare you to do is it'll give you the appropriate amount of strength to do the hop back. That if you want to do a hop back, it's really a jump forward that you're doing, meaning your body weight's leaning forward and your feet float back, okay? But it also prepares you for all the arm balances. So if you never do any dynamic movements like chaturanga, no big deal. But this will develop your strength to do an arm balance. So remember, it's about not about the jump back itself or mastering that, or even the arm balance, but it's about attaining this awareness of our physical body and developing the strength. So try it right now with whatever you got, whether it's a box of tissues, a block. I usually have my second wind blocks up here, but I have them packed away from when we moved and I never unpacked them. I'm gonna have to find which bag they're in. Okay, so then you lean forward, and I would do plank on knees, and then chaturanga, making sure that you don't touch the block or that the block stays vertical, and you can work on it that way. But the other thing you're gonna wanna make sure is that your fingers are really gripping the ground. And when I say make sure that you're not, that your forearm is vertical, I mean that you're moving in that direction, and if you film yourself, you'll see how much room you have for growth there, okay? So once you're all the way down and you've practiced that a few times, let's start working on cobra transitions. As I mentioned last class, we didn't work on cobra or upward dog. Those of you that are not new to me, you'll be familiar with this, of course, but those of you that are new to me, this will be probably uncomfortable the first few classes, and then once your body settles in, you'll enjoy it. Okay, so first step is pull your front ribs in a little bit. Not so much that you're like activating your abs like crazy, just lift your front chest off the ground, okay? Second step is to form a back bend. That means to press your low ribs and chest forward, okay? So like you're sagging your front ribs forward, that'll form the back bend in the spine. Then as your shoulder goes back, shoulders go back and down, you can pull your heart through. And what I like to do is I like to press my pelvis into the ground and reach through my toes. That seems to help decompress the spine. Some people that compresses the sacral area. So, do it if it feels good. If it doesn't, then don't. But then stretch your belly up, up, up. The first one's always a little tight. We have to stretch the abdominals in order to release any sort of compression in the spine. All right, so we'll get back to that in a moment, and I'll give you that in time with the breath. But let's first come back to downward facing dog. I've got a lot of different postures I want to play with today and give you techniques for. Let's take a full breath in, full breath out. Right leg to the sky on the inhale. Slow and steady. Remember, exhale, bend the knee, open the hip. Full breath in and out. Straight legs, square the hip. Right foot steps forward as you exhale. Now, that same push action, push through the heel, inhale, round, then unfold, come up to a high lunge. Open up, Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Pause here, draw your feet toward each other. Let's take a few moments to let our body settle in, open up the inner thighs, strengthen the glute muscles in this position here. The way you do that is pull your feet toward each other. That's the inner thighs and hamstrings that'll activate. And then you press down through your right heel, just like we did in these, to kind of a little bit of tuck of a tailbone to activate the glutes. Same thing happens here. Not like a fierce tuck of the tailbone where you're going to be putting pressure into your inner thighs, but a gentle tuck, but really a fierce press down of the heel. So the pressure down is where we want to activate the muscles, not so much in the pushing of the pelvis open, okay? The pelvis will open if you activate your muscles appropriately. Okay, reverse warrior, inhale. Hold here. Now this is a side bend. On the right side is open, but on the left side is closed, if you acknowledge that. All right, so kind of acknowledge that, but press your right ribs forward towards the front of the mat while you reach the right fingertips far away from your right hip. One more breath. All right, right forearm to the thigh. Side angle preparation. Move your groins back a little bit. By the way, when you have your hips like locked forward, there's very little movement capabilities, okay? You'll feel stuck. But if you move your hips back, you'll feel that you can bend your knee and you can actually kind of bend and move a little bit side to side, right? And that's what we're kind of going for, especially in this immersion, is that we take a position that's not locked in and held by the joints being locked, but rather it's in a place that's mobile. So move your groins back and push your front heel down, and your front hip will start to lift up. If not, that means your buttocks is not active. Front hip lifts up. Turn the belly, turn the chest. And now let's lift left arm over your ear. Full breath in. Full breath out. One more. Full breath in. And out. Slow release. That should feel really delicious. Pivot the back heel up, straighten through the front leg, look forward. We'll get to more movement in a moment, I promise. For now, let's just warm up the body so that we're prepared for the movements that we're doing. Full breath. One more. Bend the front knee. Step to down dog. Forward to plank pose on the inhale. Imagine you've got the block behind the forearm. Lean forward and lower. Squeeze the forearms in as you lower. That'll hold the pectoral muscles active. Okay, and relax. Slide your fingers and feet a little bit wider. Let's do it with the breath this time. So the first breath is an inhale. Lift the front body up. Exhale, press or soften the front ribs down and forward. Shoulders back. Inhale, stretch the chest up towards your throat. Lift the belly, get long. Exhale, release. We'll do that again with the breath. Inhale, lift the front body. Feet can be wide. Exhale, low ribs, low back, forward, shoulders back. Inhale, stretch the abdomen, pull it long, up towards the heart. Exhale, soften. One more time. Inhale with the breath. Soften. Lengthen. Release. All fours, hands and knees. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana, down dog. One breath in. And out. Left leg to the sky, inhale. Bend the knee, open up the hip. Full breath in. And out. Straight legs, square hip. Step forward. Rise, high lunge. Open warrior two. So like I said, move your groins back. Stick your butt out a little bit. That helps you activate these muscles appropriately. That doesn't mean that you don't try to tuck your tail with your muscle action. Just don't over tuck it and press your pelvis forward. Keep your groins back and then press your left outer heel down. Spin the left thigh bone out to the left. And I'm just gonna groins back, thigh bone spins, and press, push down into the left heel. Okay, the back foot presses down and drags towards the front foot. Okay, it's gonna feel like you're really ready for something. That's the activation I'd like you to have, is that the muscles are really strong and ready. Okay, then take your arms out to the side. Keep the hips back while the feet pull toward each other and the left heel presses down. Full breath in and out. Couple more breaths. One more. Reverse warrior, inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Slide the front ribs forward, exhale. One more breath. Side angle position. Again, groins go back. The butt will feel like it's sticking out behind you, but then press your left heel down, spin the left buttocks under the pose. Give you another camera angle while I do that. So hips go back, then left buttocks under as you press down, but that's not the same as pressing the pelvis forward. So hips are back, pelvis under, and your buttocks activates. Now turn the chest. Your option to do whatever you'd like with the top arm. Maybe it's reaching over, maybe it's up. Maybe you're moving it. We're really here for the legs at this moment. One more breath in. And release. Okay, pivot the back heel up. Look forward, inhale, straighten through the front leg. And exhale, bow. Enjoy a full breath in here. And out. Again, inhale. Exhale. Bend the front knee on the inhale. Step to down dog as you exhale. Forward plank pose, inhale. Fingers grip the ground. Think about leaning forward. You're welcome to place the knees down, chaturanga. Slide the hands wide. Inhale, lift the front body. Feet can be wide. Exhale, press or release the chest forward, however you want to think of that. Soften it. Then stretch the abdomen. Sip it up towards your throat. And then release. Again, inhale, lift the front body. Exhale, soften. Chest goes forward of the shoulders, melting a little bit. Press your low ribs forward. Stretch the abdomen up. Exhale. One more time. Inhale, lift. Soften, shoulders back, heart melts. Stretch the belly. Exhale, release. All right, come to all fours, hands and knees. Exhale, downward facing dog. Walk to the front of the yoga mat, please. And take your feet, turn them out. Come into Malasana squat pose, but you're gonna take your hands or your forearms to the inside of your thighs or your knees. And with your elbows, push outward for now. Okay, that's gonna develop probably a stretch sensation in the hips, but allow your hips to lift up as you do so, and then squeeze gently back in with your knees, squeeze into your elbows. Okay, so you have this activation of your inner thighs. Come up a little higher, so hips up off of your calves a little more. And squeeze your knees in. Still, while you're stretching the inner thighs, you're activating the inner thighs. One more breath. And rise all the way up. By turning the legs in, you can bow forward, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, bow. And when you're in these positions here, press the backs of your legs apart. Inhale, halfway lift. And by pressing the backs of the legs apart, you're going to start activating, when you do that rotational effort, you activate a muscle called TFL, tensor fasciae lata. One more time. It's a hip flexor and an internal rotator. It'll help you to get more deep into the posture. And the depth is not really because the flexibility is what we're going for, but the strength of the muscles to move through full range of motion. So we want to develop strength of the muscular system against its own tightness. And we use tension in this way as an advantage to strengthen our opposing muscles. A lot of people just kind of like, oh, my hamstrings are tight, so let me just stretch them. Why not use that tightness as resistance to strengthen your body? Your hamstrings will open up as a result. Okay, hands to the hips and rise all the way up to stand. All right, come to pivot to face the side of your yoga mat. Turn your toes out. Continue strengthening the buttocks and opening the inner thighs for today. Bend your knees. Now, what you'll do is you place your hands on your knees and move your hips, your groins back, pelvis back, until your chest has to lean forward as a result. Okay, this is gonna keep your chest, your heart, your rib cage upright, but your low back is in an arched position, in a back bend. Now, with the hips and knees and groins back, your knees will tend to collapse inward. So you gotta use your buttocks now. Press your knees outward slightly, and you do that by spinning the thigh bones out, okay? Now, with your thigh bones spinning out, keeping your chest forward, take your arms out to the side. So your low back's in a back bend still, but you have such a nice curve of your lumbar that your chest is lifted. I'll show you the other angle just so you get another view, might be helpful. Okay. The thigh bones, the knees are spinning out, the hips are back, the chest is lifted. Should be tiring. One more breath. Okay, and then release. Turn your toes in, bow forward, Uttanasana. Not Uttanasana, sorry. Prasarita Padottanasana. Similar pose, except that the legs are just wide. So in that similarity of Uttanasana, Upavista, sorry, what am I saying? Anyway, the similarities between them, what we want to do is create the technique of pressing the backs of the hamstrings apart from one another. It's the same action. The only difference really is just the width of your legs. In Prasarita Padottanasana, your legs are wide. In Uttanasana, your feet are either together or just a little bit apart. But the actions are very much the same. Press the backs of your legs apart, gentle spin of the thighs in. Now we're going to add one more thing on, coming to halfway lift here. And the backs of the legs moving apart is one thing, but to complete the internal rotation of the leg is to squeeze the fronts of your shins inward. So the whole rotation is that the front of the leg turns in, and if you follow that circle, the back of the leg moves apart, front of the leg turns in, back of the legs apart. That's one circular action. So if you squeeze the shins in the front side but press the backs of the hamstrings out on the back side, you're gonna get inner rotation of the thigh bones. That inner rotation of the thigh bones tends to lead, for a lot of people, to greater range of motion in the hips. And it's something that most of us tend to be weaker in, is that strength of our internal rotators. And you see it as a result in the jump forwards and the jump, most of the jump forwards and things like standing splits and three-legged dog. The top leg will always tend to externally rotate because the internal rotators are weak. All right, pivot, walk to the front of the yoga mat, into a halfway lift, and bow. Inhale, halfway lift again. Exhale and bow. One more time, inhale, halfway lift again. Exhale and bow. All right, turn your toes out, come into Malasana squat pose. Again, elbows on the inner knees, with your arms press out, but with your knees squeeze in, so you feel the adductor muscles, inner thighs activating. We're gonna do a little playful exercise. We did this, I believe we did this in the handstand immersion in December, and we'll repeat it now. This might be something that if you practice that with me, or if you've done my handstand training, that you've done this little exercise. But it's little froggy hops to the front and the back. This to be a little bit more playful in the hands, but ultimately it's going to teach you how to jump back and jump forward if you start to get used to this action. And the first thing is you got to put your hands on the ground and grip the earth. So your fingers got to be really active. And then from that confidence that you build, from that feeling of strength and stability that you gain from gripping the ground, then you'll be more willing to put weight in your hands. So you put your hands on the ground, and all you do is a little protraction of the scapula. So push the shoulder blades and round the back. I mean, that's kind of what we've been doing on the way up from like lunge in the beginning in those warm-ups, is you round the back and pull your ribs in. Now all you need to do is jump back a few inches and land into Malasana. And you do it again. You put your hands on the ground, pour your weight in your hands, push the shoulder blades apart, and then a little hop back. Okay, let's do a couple more. Pour the weight in the hands, push the shoulder blades apart, hop back. You know, little hops. It's taken me, this will be my 5th one coming up, to get to the back of the mat. Now we do the exact same thing on the way forward. Okay, so on the way forward, your hands come forward, fingers grip the ground, and when you start pouring your weight into your hands, make sure that you don't sink, but you push the ground away around your back, and then hop your feet just outside of the hands. Okay, now if that felt okay, then you go a little bit further out in front, same idea, round, hop, feet outside of the hands. Okay, again. Now those of you that are feeling like this is fairly easy, you can do press versions of these instead. So this is way more challenging, okay, so don't expect yourself to be able to, but a few of you might have access to it. You round your back, push the ground away, come to your tippy toes, and you see if you can press without as much of a jump. It's way harder, way harder. Okay, but otherwise, just a nice little hop. Even a little hop is great, and then pressing the rest away, pushing. Pressing means push the ground with your shoulders. In any case, whether you're jumping or you're trying to do the presses, you want to make sure that you're pushing the earth away. That's what's going to make your jump forwards even easier, or more accessible, I should say. All right, hands forward. All right, so if you did that right, then your hip flexors are probably tired because they keep your thighs close to your chest. All right, so if you do that again, and you can always rewatch the video and see how close my thighs are to my chest as I'm doing that, so what I'm not doing is this, like letting the legs come away. I'm keeping them close to the chest on both directions, so they're staying tight in, and the hip flexor strength that I gain from that is what's helpful when you do the transitions. Okay, so now the YouTube video is delayed, which I see the delayed reaction of my weird froggy hops is hilarious. Okay, so now with that awareness, we work towards crow pose, Bakasana. Now with any arm balance, I always recommend, if you're new to the arm balance especially, or if you're, if you've been doing it for a couple of years, but what I'm about to show you or share with you is new. So if the techniques are new, then have something in front of you. You can do a nice big cushion, a nice big pillow. That way that you're, when you apply the new technique, if it sends you forward, you're not like stomping your hands, rolling over, face planting, but rather you have a nice cushion there, keep you safe, okay? So now the idea is what we're gonna do, and if you're exhausted in this Malasana squat pose, it's a good thing because what we're gonna be doing in a little bit, this will be a nice warm up. But you take your hands, knees to the outer armpits like this, and then you squeeze your knees in. And with your knees squeezing in, it's gonna hug all of your energy to the midline, which is one of the things about movements and transitions, is that it looks like when we're doing a movement in transition that we're moving far away from our center, but it's the people that are most graceful is that they're hugging everything into their core so that their core knows where their extremities are. So in this version of crow, it's all about squeezing your legs in to find your center. And all you're gonna do is imagine you had this box behind you, you couldn't even put it beside you, and you're gonna lean forward until your forearm is vertical like the box or the block or whatever you got. I apologize to Second Wind for not having my Second Wind blocks out right now. Okay, so you squeeze the knees in, you lift your hips up like so, and as you lean forward, you're not gonna find balance until your forearms are vertical like the block. Then squeeze your legs in and squeeze your feet in, and you're in this nice strong Bakasana crow pose, and come on down. Now, part of that strength is really protracting like we did on day one for Chaturanga, but now instead of there's zero room for retraction at all. It's completely protracted. Your shoulder blades are wide apart. Your rib cage is pulled in. All the actions that you did the beginning of the class where we pressed down and we rounded the back to come up, that stuff is all present, okay? Front body strengthening. Okay, so you give you a couple of more rounds. If anybody has any questions on crow pose, let me know because we're gonna do it within the flow in a moment. I wanna make sure that you've got that down. But fingers grip the ground, lean forward. Your forearms will have to come over the wrist. And you could do another thing that I do, a little cheat here, but actually is quite intelligent, is that you keep the elbows wide until you're here, and then you squeeze your elbows in. And then as a result, you might be able to rise up. Okay, that's another way of going about it, but that could be a little more strenuous on the wrist. So be mindful. Okay, now you don't have to be able to hold crow pose to do the transitions. I'm going to show you the transition from crow to a jump back to Chaturanga. Looks like this. You can step back. Okay, it's about how swiftly and gracefully you make it. So that was with the step back. Here's with what I would say a lean forward. You see how that's slow and transition, but that comes from the ability to lean the chest forward. You call it a jump back, but it's really a lean forward. The body has to lean forward for the feet to go back gracefully. Otherwise, if you jump back, I'll show you what a jump back. If I jump back, ready? If I go back, then there it is. Heavy, everything slams. I'm surprised Tito didn't bark, but that's what happens. You just kind of hit the ground real heavy because the body weight's going back while your feet are going back. Everything's gonna slam that way. So it's shifting. If your legs are going back, you gotta shift your weight forward. That's why we use this lovely tissue box or your blocks or whatever you got to understand how to lean forward when your body's on your hands. Okay, so let's give the inner thighs a break since you just sat in Malasana for 5 hours. Okay, and let's now take our towel and we're going to try first an exercise in strengthening the adductors. So what you'll do is you can place your one foot on the yoga mat if you like, or
or just on the ground. It's up to you. But all we're gonna do is come onto the ball mount of the back foot, and you'll slide a little bit back. You go small the first rounds, and then you squeeze back in. And you might have to keep your knees slightly bent. And if you feel any pressure in the back knee, it's because you put too much weight in the back foot. The weight, your body weight, needs to be forward the whole time. Okay? So there shouldn't be a lot of pressure on the back leg. You're just keeping it there for balance. And you can gradually let it out further and further. And if you feel like you went too far, just lean your body weight, hands to the ground. That way, it's a much smarter way to get out of this, you know, with your hands on the ground than falling backwards, okay? And then you can kind of help yourself out. Otherwise, keep your body forward, and it's okay to shift your torso forward as well as you move. Now, this is really should be focusing, yes, your adductors of the back leg a little bit, but it's really the glute and the hamstrings of the front leg while you're doing this. Okay, now let's try the other side. Well, again, if you're on with one foot's on the mat, make sure the towel side is off the mat. Your body weight comes forward. Oh, I'm sorry, very small first, and then increase the size, increase the length as you go along, so that you make sure that you have the strength first before you start playing with fire. There's about a total of 5, I believe. I'm going to do one more for good luck, especially since my left leg is my weak side. All right. So now, same thing, except we're going to come into a warrior, like a flying warrior position. So your arms, as your left leg goes back, your right arm is going to go forward to counterbalance. Your torso goes forward. I'll show you one time. Your left hand comes to your thigh. Okay. As little weight on the back leg as you can. Inhales to go back. Exhales forward. Okay, other side. I know there's a lot of technique in this one, a lot of preparation. Try to get this flow going in a moment. So much to do. Okay, other side. Exhales to rise, just for strength purposes. Inhales to go back. Also, the front knee will tend to go inward towards the big toe. Here's where you want to really focus on external rotation. Front knee outward towards pinky toe the whole time. Okay. Ooh, got some heat building over here. Hopefully you as well. And we're going to use we're going to get back to upper body. And this is going to be a jump back with one leg up. This is one of those flows that is typically a little easier if you have the towel going the whole time, because a slide back is easier than a jump back. But you'll be surprised that this is, if you've done Uttanasana to jump back to Chaturanga, this is actually easier because your weight is counterbalanced better. So maybe I'll show you, no, that side angle looks good. Okay, so you go chest forward, lean forward, grip the ground, and take your right leg up. Left foot is on the towel. Hands wider is going to be much easier. Sometimes bending the top leg is way easier as well. So play with that.
but lean forward, lean forward, lean forward as you slide the towel back. Okay, there's a ladybug underneath me that I don't want to go the other way so I don't hurt you. Okay. Okay, now let's try it again. Let's do the other side though. So place the towel underneath the right, and then place your hands to the ground, grip the fingers into the earth. Left leg goes up. Again, you might bend the knee. That'll help keep the weight forward more, making it easier for you to make this transition nice and smooth. Or you can straighten it, but you want to keep the leg up regardless. Lean forward, forward, forward. It'll force you to take the leg back and then just land right on your belly so that you don't burn out. Just watching, see if this angle is good for you. Yeah. Okay. So now I don't recommend doing a lot of these because it'll certainly require a lot of effort and a lot of strength to do so. But the key focus, again, is imagine that tissue box is behind your forearm, or place it there and lean farther away from it. Lean your body forward. It'll make the legs light. This has nothing to do with upper body. Of course, the upper body strength needs to be there and all that stuff. But in terms of making the landing light, it really has to do with how far forward you go. And it's okay if you lean here and you go like this, you know, but keep your face up so that you're not gonna face plant. Okay, so keep looking, eyes forward, and always have something underneath your face if this is new to you. This is just a real good rule of thumb. There's no reason why we should have bruises on our face because we're practicing yoga. Okay, try one more time on the other side. Okay, those are the slides, and I'm going to recommend that you practice a little bit of those each day. Post it in the group so that I can see what you're doing and give you tips. It's still chaturanga, still the same thing, but with one leg up, typically it's a lot lighter and easier. So now I'm going to show you what that looks like when you jump back. You can have a little, like the top leg, if you keep it up, don't let it touch the ground until you're all the way on the ground. Then it'll make the transition lighter. I'll show you one that's like, looks impossible for a second, just to give you it. Okay, so it would be here, and then this top leg is my rudder. I'll do the side angle. All right, so that's more or less the ridiculous one. But what it'll tend to look like, or what I'd like it to start to look like, is just a small little hop. Watch this. A small little hop, or 5. Okay, so this is what I'd like you to try. Lean forward. The elbows, when they bend, move them to point straight back, and fingers grip. Now, just... Okay, so those little hops, and as you're taking those little hops, really firing up the upper body, and that'll train your body. Even in just that 1 second of a little jump, it'll train your body to strengthen in those positions. If you don't do those, then you're never going to build the strength. But if you do like a little hop, or even an attempt, even if you can't hop your foot off the ground, even just the attempt to be in the position is what builds strength and builds body awareness. Okay, so that's the jump back. And it's less back than you think and way more forward. Okay. Give me just a moment to recollect. See, okay, last thing we need to transition, understanding the foot point and flex in order to shift weight out of Warrior 2. Okay, so I recommend, let's take the feet wide, turn the right toes out. I recommend being able to get into a position where both knees are bendable. Okay, if they're not, then you're probably in an awkward position of the pelvis. Turn the tailbone straight back, bend both knees. Okay, now all we're going to do is learn how to point off the back foot. Okay, point. I'm doing a little fast. Let me point and drag. Point, drag, point, ball,
heel. Ball, toe, heel. Ball, toe, lift. Ball, toe, heel. You do a few of those on the right side. If you want to use your breath, I highly recommend it. You would do I believe this is an inhale. Yes, exhale, big toe, ball mound, heel. Inhale, ball mound, toe, lift. Exhale, toe, ball, heel. Inhale, ball mound, toe, lift. Exhale, big toe, ball mound, heel. Okay, so a shorter stance makes it easier. Now, the thing that most people do when they transition out of Warrior Two is something like, you're here and it's a launch or it's a, right? And that's because there's no articulation through the back foot or your stance is too long. But if you can learn how to articulate through the back foot, you see how it shifts the body weight to the front? Then you can move forward. And I love to drag. If you're dragging, that means your muscles are active. Whereas if you're hopping, it's like a sudden burst of strength. Now, sometimes we need to do that, but see if you can move into this more graceful manner of learning how to point and shift your body weight to drag your body into a position. The dragging will feel a lot more graceful. Okay, so try it on each side where you're learning to point, reach, lengthen, come up to what's called Flying Warrior. It's just like Ardha Chandrasana here, but lifted. So your side waistline has to activate in order to stay up tall. So it's a big oblique strengthener. Okay, then you can go to the other side. Standing knee can be bent the whole time. It can be straight if you like. Sure, why not? But the transition is you take the elevator down, big toe, ball mound, heel. Yeah? Okay. So let's put some things together. I don't even remember what time it is. Oh, we are at time. So let's do our best. Come to the front of your mat. Inhale, Utkatasana, chair pose. Exhale, hands to the ground, bow, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Place the palms to the ground, crow pose. Knees come to the outside of your arms. Lean forward, squeeze in. Hold here, take a breath in. Lean forward, step or hop back, Chaturanga. Actually, it's a little bit lean forward, Chaturanga. Slide the hands wide. Inhale, lift the front body. Soften as you exhale. Inhale, stretch the belly, look up. Exhale, release. All fours, hands and knees. Tuck your toes, exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Three-legged dog, inhale, right leg up. Step right foot forward, exhale. High lunge, rise up, inhale. Warrior Two as you exhale. Reverse warrior, inhale. Flying warrior as you exhale. So right hand goes forward, point off the back, drag, lift up, and pause. Take a breath. Now slowly transition. Instead of going to Warrior Two, your right hand slowly glides down, touches the earth like Ardha Chandrasana, then the left hand. My suggestion, inhale, bend both knees, tuck into a little ball. Exhale, straighten both legs, standing splits, bow. Inhale, halfway lift, prepare. Chaturanga with one leg up. Slide the hands wide, inhale.
Soften, exhale. Inhale, stretch the belly long. Exhale, release. All fours, inhale. Tuck the toes, exhale, down dog. Left side up to the sky, inhale, you got this. Step forward, exhale. Push down, rise, high lunge, inhale. Open warrior two. Reverse. Flying warrior, exhale, lean the body weight forward, big toe points, drag, slide and lift. Hold. Breathe in. Left hand drapes down towards the ground. Right hand touches. Bend everything, inhale. Exhale, standing splits. Inhale, lift halfway. Chaturanga, right leg stays lifted. Lean forward. Slide the hands wide, inhale. Soften. Inhale, press the heart forward and up. Exhale. All fours, hands and knees. Tuck toes, exhale, down to up. Full breath in. Full breath out. Lift the heels, inhale, look forward, listen carefully. Malasana, hop forward. Exhale, squat. Inhale, lift the chest. Uttanasana, exhale, turn the legs in, bow forward. Rise to the sun. Hands to the heart. That is our flow today. Man, that's a tough one. Congratulations, everybody. I suggest replaying it back and checking in with yourself and filming yourself do the flow along with me teaching it, and then you can refine it and you can skip the pauses, but I think the pauses are a little nice too, also to hold and to be in it. Not every flow has to mean like you just keep moving, but part of the flow is knowing when to pause in places. Like for me, that's standing splits, to just be for a moment. It might be nice to even hold it for a few more breaths. Okay, so let's just stretch the chest muscles. Either come onto the ground and take your arm out to the side, or find a wall and turn away from it, stretching the pecs open. And I just want to remind you that, like the flow or anything, any pose, is a journey, not an end result. So let's not expect that you should be able to masterfully move through this flow on the first round. I certainly do not, even though I know the flow and I know all the postures and I've worked on these for years. So it would take me a few rounds to really refine the transitions. You can switch sides, either if your hand's on the wall, turn around, or if you're on the ground, roll over. So, it takes your body some time to put pieces together. And that refinement that we do over time, attention to detail, is what allows us to develop our body awareness, allows us to develop strength. We figure out, here's my suggestion, figure out where the spots are that you feel weak and stay there and focus in on developing strength. This will iron out any rigid points in your flow, smooth them out. Figure out what feels super tight and work on developing flexibility, but not in a harsh way where you force yourself, but in a more controlled way, slow over time, rather than avoiding it. Okay, come onto your back. Maybe a happy baby. And as you're ready, you can release into Shavasana. You can always turn the thighs in, let the knees knock toward each other.
And enjoy the sensations of your body. Enjoy what you've created. Bring your awareness back to your breath. Awaken your fingers and your toes. Stretch the arms. And roll to your right side. Come up to a seated position as you are ready. Palms to the heart. We take a moment to acknowledge the efforts that we've placed in our practice today. With gratitude for this body that supports us through this journey of life, we bow in. Thank you all so much for your attention, for your efforts, for your flow. Namaste. All right. Thank you so very much, and I'm happy that we had an opportunity to explore this flow. It is a challenging one. It's something that you can work on over the next year, probably. So I'd love to see where you're at with it. Remember that you don't ever have to jump back. You could always step the feet back. You could always, do little jumps along the way. You can do slides instead. Just use a towel or socks on wood, and this doesn't have any knees on the ground, so it might be a good flow to do entirely as a slide flow. Keeping your 1 or 2 feet on sliding around on the ground might be easier. Just be mindful as you go, and careful, of course, that when you do any sort of what are called jump backs, but really lean forwards, that your face is protected. If you put a cushion in front, is a great idea. All right. Thank you all, and just take a quick look at the chat. Yeah, it is definitely, that was a intense one. I felt it in those slide forwards with the foot. I'm sure you all felt it with the upper body stuff, but with the Warrior 2 leg, for me, I'm starting to feel that heat build in the front leg a lot. If you have any questions, throw them in the chat. Any requests, let me know. I know we're like a few moments delayed, so I'll just give you a second to pop whatever you want in there. My muscles will probably remember this class when I try to get out of bed tomorrow. Yeah, that's probably true. Appreciate those of you that are participating in chat. Fun to have a little interaction with you. While we're here, just a quick mention that the 300-hour teacher training, the 200-hour training, which is to get certified to teach yoga, started today. Which is, we're now in February 1st. We're now in February 6th is the date. But if you're watching this live and you still want to join that training, just send me a message and we can get you in the next couple of days. It's fine. But for the 300-hour training, those of you that are already yoga teachers and you want to take your teaching to the next level, then send me a direct message, because February 14th starts the next 300-hour teacher training. We'd love to have you in there. Let's see, what do we got? Balance Beck. Absolutely. Thanks, Beck. Nice to have you here. Thank you all. Much love to you, and talk to you soon. Bye.